welcome to the Viavi Solutions Quick Tips for running CPRI check on version 26.1 in a TBERD 5800 version 2. With the latest release of software, we now have the ability to run CPRI at individual rates or a combination of rates that we can choose on the fly to best meet our needs. I'm going to show you the latest version. So we'll select CPRI, rates 1 through 7, CPRI check, and terminate. And this way we will plug into an RRH and be able to test into the RRH and verify the signals are working from a communication between our test set acting as a BBU and an Alcatel-Lucent Nokia remote radio head. I will start with the new configuration for this example. So we'll select Go. Depending on the licensing, these options will change in your test set, and most of the systems will have everything on the left side that's grayed out and is always in our test set, as well as the top two. So we'll go over RRH identification and RET, remote electrical tilt. Understand that if you don't have a RET controller, you do not want to run our RET test. It will just take a minute and a half to time out. But if you are looking at your RETs, then we absolutely support those. So once we select the test we want, we're going to hit the next button and define the duration of the test. I'm going to pick the minimum for this demo at 12 seconds. I'm also going to turn on my pass-fail limits for optical power. This allows me to look at the power coming out of each individual SFP and verify it meets some minimum threshold criteria. You do not need to check those boxes. It's good practice though. Once we have that profile set, which is again setting our tests in the Alcatel-Lucent base station and our pass-fail criteria for optical power, you're welcome to save it. And you just click on the Save Profiles, and that will allow you to use the Load Profiles at a later date. Once those two parameters are set, we run the test. In the newer version of software, the first thing that our test set does is it looks at the local SFP that you have plugged into the 5800. And in my case, I'm running a multi-mode SFP that can run up to 8 gigabit traffic. My system right now is set for rate 3, which is fully supported in my RRH. As you can see, I have 3 green lights. My signal's present, and I've gotten sync acquired plus frame sync on top of that. Those 3 green lights indicate that I have a valid system, my RRH is powered on, and the 2 SFPs have started communicating. What's nice about this latest version is you can test a different rate to see does my base station, does my RRH, test different rates. And in this case, I absolutely support rates at 5 also. So now I'm at rate 5. I also have sync lights. What's important though is if I go to a CPRI rate that's not supported by the RRH, we'll still have signal present because light is always on in these SFPs, but you can see here my test set is trying to force the RRH to work at a rate that it's not designed to work at, i.e. rate 7. So now very quickly we can see, okay, this is not going to work for our test and we will fail everything. We don't even have a baseline. Let me go back to rates at 5 and you'll see in a couple seconds, sure enough, my light has just turned green at the check mark, all 3 of my lights here, and I've passed. So that's the very first new feature in this test set is we're able to validate everything before you even run the test to make sure you're going to at least have an environment that's testable. Once I do that, I hit next, and then we run into the actual test itself. And as you can see, there are 6 tests in our CPRI check. First one's already been run, my local SFP, and I'm going to run the other 5 right now. The first 3 tests that now have blue lines are running in parallel, and this will take 12 seconds based on how I did this with my previous test setup. And what this is doing is it's taking the test set is doing a rate set 5 configuration and throughput test up to the RRH and making sure the RRH is replying back. Once that happens, we look for any code errors, such as in the interface. We look for code violations. We have 0, therefore this is a clean test. We also give you the optical power level coming off of the RRH through the fiber that we are connected to. And as you can see here, I have a very clean power level of negative 4.4 with a threshold of negative 18. So that's information we like to store into our reports so we understand if there are code violations, is it due to power, which could be done by faulty cabling, dirty wires, bad SFPs. We like to verify all that. Once that's done, you'll notice that the RRH identification was tested, and now I can look at what's inside of here. So for this test, it's very simple. With no configuration done on your side, the end user, the system has queried the RRH, and the RRH has come back with its manufacturer, type of RRH it is, the serial number of the RRH, and most importantly for us, the IF version. This is information that is the metadata from the RRH itself. And then below that, we query for the frequency range that this antenna supports. So in this case, this is a 4x4 capable system that runs at 47.9 dBm and runs in the 700 megahertz band. And so it's a very quick check. This goes through and checks everything on the RRH to verify that it is the proper RRH installed and it's also responding. And then most importantly for a lot of people, we also look at the SFP. So what you see here is the remote SFP that's actually installed inside of the RRH itself. So now we've looked at a test of our local SFP. This is the remote SFP, and we can verify this SFP is capable of going up to 10 gig, which is plenty of speed to handle rate 5, which is what I'm doing. It also tells me what its receive level is going into the base station. So now we know what we put out. We now read the optical level into that SFP from the remote side. So by doing this test, we verified the power levels on both the transmit and receive side from using the RRH as well as us. So it's a very quick test, takes about 15 seconds, but immensely important for testing the quality of your RRH. And finally, when that is all done, it jumps to the RET test, which I have right down here. So in this case, I'll click on RET because we have two RETs attached to our base station, or to our RRH, excuse me. And as you can see here, we have an alpha antenna, which has a 3-degree tilt, and we ran a small test against it. It passed. We also have a sector 4H, let's call that our beta sector, which has a 2-degree tilt. It also has passed. So we will show failures and passing systems for every antenna connected into here. We also give you, the end user, the ability to set tilt and to calibrate and clear any alarms that may be present in this report. You don't have to do that, but it's an option we give our users to be able to adjust it as needed. And that's it. I've just now run a complete series of tests through my base station in about a minute and a half. When this is done, we can save profiles. It's reminding me I didn't save. More importantly, I can go right to my report tab, enter in my information, add my logo, and create the report. By creating the report, the system will automatically make a PDF of not only the pictures that we saw at the top, and I'll scroll down so you can see that. So not only do we have the pictures here at the top, which is uneditable and hardened, so you as the managers and the people running it know it's been tested, but every ounce of data that we looked at between filling out the form, the firmware that's installed into our unit, as well as the local SFP, remote RRH, all of that is included in this report with the touch of one button. And again, if there were any failures, those show up in the report. This report, once created, can be offloaded from the unit itself, either via a USB stick or connecting through a remote interface. And of course, it's a typical PDF at 5 pages that you are welcome to email around. Once you've completed the report, you hit the next button, connect to another sector, hit the repeat test, and now you're doing your beta sector or your gamma sector. That is it for us with CPRI Check. Happy checking, everyone. Thank you again, and farewell.